The key sat in my palm like an accusation. 3 years. For 3 years, Bob had kept the garage locked, and I'd accepted his explanation without question. "The tools are dangerous," he'd said, his words slurred by the Parkinson's that stole more of him each day. "Sharp blades, heavy equipment. You don't need to worry about it, Maggie." I'd nodded, relieved, honestly. One less thing to manage while watching my husband of 38 years slowly disappear into tremors and silence. The funeral was 3 weeks ago. I found the key yesterday, taped to the back of our wedding photo with a small note. "When you're ready." I wasn't ready. But standing in our driveway at 7 in the morning, still in my bathrobe, I realized I'd never be ready for any of this. Ready to sleep alone. Ready to make decisions alone. Ready to be alone. The lock turned smoothly. Bob must have kept it oiled. The garage door groaned open, and morning light spilled across something I couldn't immediately process. Not tools. Not the cluttered workshop I'd imagined. Instead, a long table dominated the center of the space, and on it sat the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. A scale model. A garden. But not just any garden. I stepped closer, my hand covering my mouth. Miniature pathways wound through carefully crafted landscapes, tiny benches, small structures with what looked like, were those sensory stations? I recognized some from Ethan's therapy center. The water wall, the textured panels, the quiet room with soft lighting. My grandson. This was for my grandson. Ethan is 8 now. He was diagnosed with autism when he was 3, and watching Jessica navigate that journey as a mother had been both heartbreaking and humbling. The meltdowns in public, the judgmental stares, the lack of safe spaces where he could just be a kid. Bob had seen it all, but Bob couldn't talk about it, not clearly, not in the last few years. The disease had stolen his words first, leaving him frustrated and isolated in his own head, so he'd built this instead. I found the blueprints rolled neatly in a wooden box beneath the table. Dozens of them. Architectural drawings, engineering specifications, landscape designs. Notes in Bob's increasingly shaky handwriting covered the margins. Wheelchair accessible. Sensory-friendly materials. Quiet zones for overwhelm. There were letters, too. Correspondence with the city planning office. Emails with architects. Grant applications. Fundraising proposals. My hands shook as I unfolded a letter from someone named Elena Rodriguez, landscape architect. It was dated 8 months ago. "Mr. Chen, I'm deeply moved by your vision for this project. As the mother of a child with sensory processing differences, I understand exactly what you're trying to create. This garden isn't just a playground, it's a sanctuary. I would be honored to help bring this to life. The preliminary budget looks manageable, especially with the donation of land from Street Andrews Church. I believe we can make this happen." Street Andrews, our church. Bob had secured land? I found the land deed in the next folder. 2 acres, donated specifically for an inclusive community garden and playground for children with developmental disabilities and their families. 90% of the funding was already in place. Corporate sponsors, private donors, even a small grant from the State Disability Services Office. Everything was ready. Everything, except Bob. I sank onto the concrete floor, surrounded by my husband's secret life. And that's when I saw the final envelope. My name on it. In his handwriting, from before the tremors got bad. "My dearest Maggie, if you're reading this, I'm gone. I'm sorry I couldn't tell you about this in person. I tried, so many times, but the words wouldn't come out right anymore, and I couldn't bear to have you see me struggle. I know that's selfish. I know you would have understood, but I needed you to discover this on your own terms, in your own time. I've watched you these past 38 years. You're the strongest person I know, even though you don't believe it. You always put everyone else first. Me, the kids, your students. You spent your whole life teaching children to find their voices, but you never quite found your own. This garden is for Ethan, for every child like him who needs a place to feel safe and understood. But it's also for you, Maggie. It's proof that I always saw what you couldn't see in yourself. Someone capable of leading, of fighting, of building something that matters. They're going to doubt you. Our children probably already have reasons why this is impractical, why you should sell the house, why you should take the easy path. They love you, but they've never had to watch you teach a classroom of 30 kids or negotiate with that principal who tried to cut the special education program. I have. Don't let them make you small. Don't let anyone make you small. Build Ethan's garden. Build it for him. Build it for me. But mostly, build it for yourself. All my love, Bob. I don't know how long I sat there crying. Long enough that my daughter let herself in with her spare key and found me. Mom? What are you doing in the garage? It's freezing, oh my God. What is all this? Jessica stood in the doorway, her designer coat and perfect makeup incongruous against the raw space. Behind her, I heard my son David's voice. Mom? Jess said you were out here. I stood up, brushing the dust from my bathrobe, and faced my children. Your father built this. He spent 3 years planning a garden for Ethan. For kids like Ethan. Jessica moved closer to the model, her expression unreadable. David hung back, his realtor instincts probably already calculating square footage and property values. A garden? Jessica's voice was soft. Dad never said anything. He couldn't. The Parkinsons. David cleared his throat. Mom, it's a nice idea, but it's not realistic. Do you know how much a project like this costs? Who's going to manage it? Who's going to maintain it? I picked up Bob's letter and held it against my chest. I am. The silence that followed felt like standing on the edge of something vast. Jessica recovered first, her voice taking on that particular tone she used at work, the one that meant she was about to fix a problem. Mom, I love that you want to honor Dad, but you've never managed a construction project. You just retired. You should be resting, not taking on something this massive. Your father didn't think it was too massive for me. David stepped forward, and I saw something in his face that hurt more than Jessica's well-meaning concern. Calculation. The house is worth a lot, Mom. We could sell it, get you set up somewhere nice. One of those active senior communities. You'd have activities, people your age, no maintenance to worry about. I'm 62, David, not 90. And this is my house. It's also our inheritance, he said, then immediately looked like he regretted it. Jessica shot him a look that could peel paint. What David means is that we're worried about you. Financially. Emotionally. Dad just died. You're grieving. Maybe this isn't the best time to make big decisions. But I wasn't making a decision. The decision was already made. I'd made it the moment I read Bob's letter. The moment I saw what he'd been building in silence while his body betrayed him. I'm doing this, I said quietly. With or without your support. That was 6 months ago. I'm standing in what used to be an empty lot behind St. Andrew's Church, watching Elena Rodriguez direct a crew of volunteers as they install the sensory wall. It's 90 degrees, and I'm sweating through my project manager t-shirt that Elena gave me as a joke that became real. The garden is almost done. It's been 6 months of the hardest work I've ever done. Harder than my first year teaching. Harder than raising 2 kids. Harder than watching Bob fade. My children fought me every step. Jessica brought a doctor who gently suggested I might be experiencing complicated grief. David brought his lawyer to discuss power of attorney. They meant well, at least Jessica did. David's divorce had left him drowning in debt, and I knew he'd been counting on the house sale. But I had Elena. I had Mr. Tanaka, my elderly neighbor who'd lost his wife 10 years ago and understood what it meant to need purpose. I had the community parents of kids with disabilities who showed up to every city council meeting when David tried to block the project permits. I had Bob's detailed plans and his belief that I could do this. And somewhere around month 3, when I successfully negotiated with a contractor who tried to overcharge us, when I stood in front of the City Accessibility Committee and defended our design choices, when I learned to read blueprints and building codes and grant applications, I started to believe it too. The phone call from Jessica came last week. Mom, I need to talk to you about something. My stomach clenched, preparing for another fight. If this is about the conservatorship, no. God, no. Mom, I'm sorry. I've been watching you these past months, and I was wrong. About everything. I sat down on my front porch steps. What changed? Ethan's teacher called me. Do you know what he told his class? He said his grandma is building him a park. Not my grandpa wanted to, or my grandma is trying to. He said, my grandma is building me a park, and Mom. He said it with so much pride. She said it was the most he's talked in class all year. My eyes burned. Jessica, I've been so embarrassed, she said, and her voice broke. My colleagues at work kept asking about your mom's garden project, and I'd changed the subject because I thought you were having some kind of breakdown. I thought you'd fail and lose everything, and I'd have to pick up the pieces. But you're not failing. You're succeeding. And I've been too busy being embarrassed by my eccentric mother to see that my son finally has a grandmother he can look up to. You were never embarrassed by me. Yes, I was. Your old-fashioned clothes. Your accent that never quite went away, even after 40 years here. Your teaching stories. I wanted you to be smaller, quieter, easier to explain. I'm so sorry, Mom. The grand opening is today. I'm standing at the entrance of Ethan's garden, that's what we named it, officially watching 300 people arrive. Parents and kids, city officials, the donors who made it possible, the news crew that called it a revolutionary approach to inclusive community spaces. David isn't here. I invited him, but he didn't respond. That hurts, but I'm learning that you can't force people to grow, even when they're your own child, especially when they're your own child. But Jessica is here. She's helping Ethan navigate through the crowd, and when he sees the garden for the first time, really sees it. The quiet rooms and the water features and the swings designed for wheelchairs and the sensory stations that Bob somehow knew he'd love, my grandson does something he almost never does. He runs to me and hugs me. You built it, Grandma. You really built it. We built it, I tell him, holding him tight. Your grandpa designed it. A lot of people helped make it real. But yes, baby, we built it. Elena is giving the dedication speech, talking about Bob's vision and inclusive design and community partnership. But I'm watching Ethan explore his garden with a freedom I've never seen in him before. And I'm thinking about that morning in the garage, about finding Bob's letter, about standing in my bathrobe holding a key to a locked room and having no idea what came next. I thought the gift was the garden, the blueprints, the funding, the dream handed to me complete. But Bob's gift wasn't the garden. It was the belief that I could build it. The challenge to step into a version of myself I'd never met before. The opportunity to stop being the supportive wife, the helpful mother, the quiet teacher who never made waves. At 62, I'm not winding down. I'm not managing my decline. I'm not waiting for my children to decide what's best for me. I'm standing in a garden I built, watching my grandson play without fear, and I'm already thinking about the next project. Elena mentioned that 3 other towns want to replicate this design. Mr. Tanaka suggested we start a nonprofit to help other communities develop inclusive spaces. Bob kept that garage locked for 3 years. Not because he was keeping secrets, not because he didn't trust me, but because some gifts can't be received, they have to be earned. Some transformations can't be given, they have to be chosen. He gave me the plans, but I had to decide to build. And now, standing here in the late afternoon sun, watching families use a space that didn't exist 6 months ago, I understand what Bob knew all along. The locked door was never meant to keep me out. It was meant to invite me in, into possibility, into purpose, into the version of myself that was always there, just waiting for permission to be built. I don't need permission anymore.